Yes, yes, yes. How we doing? Welcome to show 425. 425. The sun's just coming over. It's Monday morning. It's a fresh week. We've got to be ready to go, right? We've got to be ready to go. Because if we're not ready to go, we're going to crumble into the heat we always do. So today we're going to be talking about allowing burnout into our lives. And that's what we do with burnout, right? We allow it into our lives. It doesn't come on like a cold or a headache or a pain in the backside. We allow burnout into our lives. We invite it. Okay, so on show 425, we're going to talk about burnout. And we're going to talk about avoiding burnout and self-awareness with burnout, yada, yada, yada. Okay, let's get into it. Welcome to the Rise to Thrive show. I am your host, James Borman. If you are coming through, please do hit the love heart button somewhere down here. Give it a couple of taps for me. It allows me to know you're watching, especially for the lurkers that don't necessarily want to engage, which is cool. You can watch from afar. Okay, but if you are coming through, what I want you to do for me is in the comments, I want you to write and be honest and be open. Do you struggle with burnout? Not necessarily just work burnout, but life burnout, exercise burnout, relationship burnout, just burnout. What is burnout? So for me, I think one of the things that has really escalated and has become a pandemic within our own community again, society, is burnout. Sorry. If you think about the COVID era, everybody kind of was withdrawn from work because we had to be, right? We were working from home. But a lot of the people and a lot of things that I was talking about, burnout wasn't one of those things that was in and around, right? It wasn't necessarily such, and it's not, that is not going to be the same statement for everybody, by the way. So you don't need, like, if you turn around and kind of go, well, it was fine for me, like, oh, it wasn't fine for me. Just as in general, as a general rule of thumb, there wasn't a lot of burnout. Then all the doors opened to normal life again, and it's like COVID never even happened. And what we're seeing again today is more and more burnout and pressure and stress. And it's becoming, companies are becoming more demanding of their employees. Men and women are becoming more obligated to their work, more consumed, more pressurized. That then affects the pressures of life. So you could be burnt out from overthinking. So overthinking too much, practically engaging in work too much, bringing work back and it cutting into personal space at home. So then the burnout becomes the relationship. It becomes the conversation with the wife or the husband or the children, or not spending enough time with the children, or not spending enough time, and there's not enough connection. Then the weight piles on. So then there's the burnout from constantly feeling unattractive, from feeling maybe ashamed of putting on 2 stone, of maybe feeling quite miserable. Then there's the burnout of worry with the economy, with the rising interest rates, with the mortgages rates. So at the minute, what we're doing, if you imagine you in this huge bubble, we put ourselves in this huge bubble. And that bubble is almost like a protection force field. Now, the more that we work on ourselves, the stronger that bubble is, or the fort. Okay, we've got a fort. That's the one I usually use in my free coaching sessions. Okay, we have this fort. And almost everything outside of this fort is the enemy. Okay, is everything that's trying to get into your head, consume you, dominate you, and take over. Okay, But what we want to do is make sure that we're protecting our own standards, our own habits, our own routines, our own mindset, our own relationships, our own finances, our own health. So within this fort, we're trying to desperately protect ourselves. Who resonates with being in that fort? So if you're working on yourself, in the comments below, let me know whether that's a struggle. But what's happening is that there is so much going on, and we are allowing so much to consume us that it's overrunning your fort. We're overthinking, we're over worrying. We are stressing ourselves out. But are we counteracting that with enough personal development? With enough training? Are we planning our times? Are we showing up as a high performer? Are our habits and our discipline and our routines, are our structures, are our systems in place to protect us from everything that's happening out there? Because some of the consequences of burnout, you know all too well. You know all too well. Mentally, emotionally drained. Mentally and emotionally drained from constantly thinking, from constantly over worrying. Lack of productivity, constantly on the go. If you got 2 weights and 2 dumbbells and you started bicep curling them like this, and I told you to do that for 24/7 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days of the year, could you do that? Okay, you couldn't, right? Because your muscles would absolutely burn out. Your arms would drop. Your brain is a muscle. So when you constantly allow being the word, when you allow yourself to overthink, worry, and consume yourself, you're doing bicep curls in your head constantly all of the time. Which is why it's so important that we work on ourselves. It's so important that we have a morning routine. I need to spend 2.5 hours down here to make sure that the defenses on my fort are strong. So what I'm doing right now in this morning routine is I'm clearing my head emotionally, mentally, physically. I've been for the walk. I'm going to do the meditation after this show. I'm going to do a little bit of reading for mindset. I'm going to do a little bit of clarity when I look at my journal. I'm going to mentally prepare myself because I'm no different to you. I'm still going through all of the things that everyone else is doing. But these are my defenses for my fort that's stopping everything coming in. Nobody is immune to this. No coach that you watch. No teacher that you talk to. No other dad or mum. Everyone, this is life. This is reality of life, right? What we're not doing when we work on ourselves, we're not learning to stop all of that chaos, because that will never stop. Chaos will never stop raining in on our lives because it's everywhere. Because as soon as the inflation rate settles, as soon as there's stability financially, there's going to be something else. So we've got to make sure that we are tougher and harder and stronger. So first step, morning routine, then going to jiu-jitsu, then going to the gym. Then making sure we're taking breaks during the day, not working frantically. Make sure we're self-aware about what's going on. Make sure we're reflecting on our habits. Make sure we're paying attention to them. Whoops, this thing is a nightmare. So what I want to challenge you to think about is, are you doing enough to protect your fort? Are you doing enough to protect your mental and emotional health from the stress? You've got to work. You've got to go to work. But when you go to work, you show up like an elite operator. You do what you got to do. You take your breaks. Become productive. You can only do what you can do in a day. Focus on your top 3 things. Those top 3 tasks that are going to move the needle forward. So whether you are a business owner or whether you're in your career, what are the top 3 things you are going to focus on today? Because as soon as you've done those top 3 things, you don't have the mental or emotional capacity to do any more. And if you do any more, it will affect the quality and the productivity of those jobs that you do. Okay? Realistically, I use a challenge on business owners. and we do a 20-hour week challenge, okay, because they have a bit more flexibility, right? So I always say you've only got 20 hours to be able to work. That's all you've got. And that limits their time to what is capable within that time. And it's just to show that they might do more than 20 hours. But what we end up doing is cutting all of the things that we don't need off. So we then need to learn to prioritize. So prioritization is a really good antidote to burnout. What are the things that I need to do most with my time, my energy, and my focus to move me forwards, to move the needle forwards, to become a high performer, to get the task done, to make sure there's barriers in place to say no to work and yes to personal. To say, I do have time for the gym. I do have time for a workout. I do have time to get up in the morning. So it's really prioritizing. And at the very top of that priority list, every single time, it doesn't matter what day it is, it doesn't matter what time of year it is, you have to be at the top of it. If you are not at the top of the priority list, that's why you're struggling with burnout. That's the number one reason you are struggling with burnout, right? It's because you are not number one. If you are going to be the best in your career or business, if you are going to avoid burnout at work, it's because you put yourself first and you build high performing habits, routines and structures. And if you need help with how to develop that high performance, on the copy of this video, there's a high performance guide that you can watch the videos to, okay? If your relationships are struggling because you're not communicating and you're not understanding your partner and you're not working together as a team, it's because you're not the priority and you're not leading that situation. If you have put weight on, if you feel unhappy with how unfit mentally, emotionally and physically you are, it's because you are not putting yourself first. You're not building the body armor, the battle armor for life. You're allowing it to consume you. If you're not personally developing yourself and investing in yourself to learn, to grow, to build, it's because you're not putting yourself first. So the summary of today is, if we want to avoid burnout, we must invest time, energy, finances, resources on us becoming stronger. And it's your responsibility, whether you're a man or a woman watching this, it is your responsibility to execute as a priority. And you have to challenge yourself and say, have I become the priority here? Why am I falling into this overwhelm? Why am I allowing it into my thought? Why am I allowing it into my state of mind? And they're challenging questions for you, right? So I hope you have an amazing day. We're back here Wednesday, 5:30 in the morning. It seems like we've grown our audience by nearly like 160 people. So if you are watching, it's amazing to have you. Please do say hello. We're back here Wednesday at 5:30. Okay. We're going to be talking about, overcoming adversity, still showing up over adversity. All right. So let's make sure we get to work. Let's make sure we start the week as we mean to go on. Do not allow anything to overrun you in your thought. Stay in control. Become the leader each day. Manage hour by hour. Stay on top of your game. Have an amazing day. Your last challenge is tell me your number one takeaway in the comments.